The sun was just starting to dip low, painting streaks of fire across the rippling water, when I heard the shouting. At first I thought it was the usual chatter of kids down the shoreline, but the tone cut sharp, like a blade scraping glass. I walked onto the dock just in time to see my 12-year-old daughter Emily sitting in our little John boat, paddle in hand, frozen stiff as a towering figure on the shore screamed at her. HOA Karen. She was red-faced, her round body planted wide like a general on a battlefield, one arm clutching her phone, the other pointing at my child like she was some kind of criminal. "Get out of that lake right now," she bellowed, her voice echoing over the still water. "You don't belong there. This lake belongs to the HOA, and I'm calling the police to drag you out if you don't leave this instant." I felt my chest burn. That lake wasn't HOA land, it was mine. My grandfather had bought and recorded the deed back when the shoreline was nothing but swamp and brush, long before the HOA even existed. Every inch of water my daughter's boat floated on was Miller land, passed down through generations. Yet here was Karen, her belly straining against a floral blouse, threatening my child like a dictator. Emily's small voice carried across the water. "This is my dad's lake. I'm not doing anything wrong." Her defiance made me proud, but my gut twisted as Karen sneered into her phone. "Dispatch? Yes, we have a trespasser on the community lake. A little brat in a boat. Send officers immediately. I want her charged and removed. Now." Neighbors had gathered by then, drawn by the commotion. Some filmed on their phones, whispers rising into an uneasy murmur. Everyone knew Karen's reputation, self-appointed HOA tyrant, obsessed with rules she invented, convinced she owned what wasn't hers. But this was different. This wasn't about grass height or mailbox colors. This was about a child. My child. I strode forward, boots thudding on the dock, voice thundering before I even reached her. "Karen, that's enough." She turned, startled for only a heartbeat before regaining her smug composure. Well, she sneered. "Looks like Daddy Sheriff finally showed up. Perfect. You can help remove her yourself. Or maybe I'll just have your deputies do it when they arrive. Either way, she's leaving this lake tonight." For a moment, the world seemed to stop. Karen didn't realize who she had just called. She didn't know that when her bogus complaint went out, the dispatcher routed it straight to my office, and the deputy who picked up the call had already radioed me. She didn't realize the trespasser she wanted hauled away was the daughter of the county sheriff. I stepped closer, my badge gleaming under the last rays of sun. "Karen," I said, my voice low and hard, "this lake doesn't belong to your HOA, it belongs to me. I am the lawful owner, and your call to dispatch was a false report." Her smirk faltered, but only for a second. She puffed up, jowls quivering. "Don't play games with me. I've lived here 20 years. Everyone knows the HOA owns this lake. We pay fees, we maintain it, we host events. You can't just waltz in and claim it's yours." I pulled a folded document from my back pocket, the one I'd carried since the first time Karen tried stunts like this. The original deed, notarized and signed decades ago. I held it high for the cameras. "This deed says otherwise. This lake has been Miller property since 1946. Your HOA has been trespassing for years." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones zoomed in, recording every line of ink on the yellowed paper. Emily, still in her boat, lifted her chin proudly, her eyes wide with relief. Karen's face went from red to purple. "This is outrageous," she shrieked. "You forged that. I'll have the whole board back me up. You can't fool us with some dusty old paper. The HOA owns everything inside the subdivision map, and that includes this lake. My word stands." That was when headlights cut across the gravel drive. 2 patrol cars rolled up, lights flashing, the same deputies who had taken her call. They stepped out cautiously, hands resting near their belts, scanning the scene. "Sheriff?" one of them said, eyes flicking between me, Karen, and the deed in my hand. Karen rushed toward them, waving her arms. "Arrest that girl. She's trespassing, and her father's threatening me with fake documents. Do your job." The deputies glanced at each other, then back at me. I gave a curt nod, my voice steady. "Officers, you are looking at the property owner. That girl is my daughter. And that woman has just filed a false emergency report." The silence broke when one deputy asked, "Do you want us to proceed, Sheriff?" Before I could answer, something unexpected happened. From the crowd, an elderly man stepped forward. Mr. Harlan, who had lived at the edge of the subdivision since before most of us were born. His voice was gravelly but carried like thunder. "I'll vouch for him. I was there when his grandfather bought this land. I signed as a witness on that deed. Karen's been lying to you all for years. That lake was never the HOA's. It never will be." The crowd erupted in murmurs, disbelief mixing with anger. Karen spun on him, shrieking, "You're senile. Don't you dare contradict me. I've run this community for 2 decades, and I'll run you out if you don't shut your mouth." But it was too late. Cameras caught every word. Neighbors glared, and the deputies knew the truth. I turned to them, my voice like stone. "You heard the testimony. You've seen the deed. Place her under arrest for filing a false report and attempting to harass a minor." For the first time, Karen's bravado cracked. Her eyes widened, her hands flailed. "No, you can't arrest me. I'm the HOA president. I'll sue this entire county." But the deputies moved in, firm hands gripping her arms, clicking cuffs around her wrists. She howled as they led her toward the cruiser, her words spilling out in venom. "You'll regret this. You think you're powerful because you're sheriff? But I'll destroy you." The door slammed shut, silencing her tirade. Neighbors applauded, some even cheering. Emily paddled back to shore, where I lifted her out of the boat and held her tight against my chest. She whispered into my ear, trembling, "Daddy?" I was so scared. I kissed her forehead and whispered back, "She'll never scare you again." That night, as news of the arrest spread, I sat on the porch with Emily and Alana, the lake glimmering peacefully in the moonlight. For the first time in years, the water felt safe again. But I knew this was only the beginning. Karen's lies had ruled the neighborhood for too long, and now her empire was crumbling. And deep down, I understood something larger. This wasn't just about a lake. It was about a community reclaiming its dignity from fear. The morning after Karen's arrest, the entire county seemed to buzz like a hive that had just been shaken. Phones rang nonstop at my office. Reporters camped outside the courthouse. Neighbors who once stayed silent under her rule now found their voices, sending in statements, emails, and photos documenting years of harassment. It was as if one spark, her trying to drag my daughter out of our own lake, had lit a wildfire that could no longer be contained. Karen was held overnight and released on bail, but her mugshot spread faster than any lie she had ever told. There she was, sweat-slicked hair, a twisted scowl, eyes flashing with that familiar entitlement. Local news plastered it under bold headlines, "HOA president arrested for false report against sheriff's daughter." National outlets picked it up too. Suddenly, Karen wasn't just a neighborhood bully, she was the face of an ugly truth about abuse of power. I knew the fight wasn't over. Karen had resources, connections, and above all, pride. She wasn't going to slink away quietly. At the arraignment, she strutted into the courtroom as though the cuffs had never touched her wrists, her attorney trailing behind like a loyal hound. She demanded the charges be dismissed, claiming I had orchestrated everything to embarrass her. But when the judge read the police report aloud, her own words from the 911 call describing a dangerous trespasser child in a boat, her bluster fell flat. The courtroom snickered. The judge silenced them with a glare, but even he couldn't hide his disgust. Neighbors came forward in droves. One testified how Karen fined him $500 for having a non-regulation birdhouse. Another described her trespassing onto their lawn to measure grass with a ruler. A single mother broke down crying as she explained how Karen threatened foreclosure over an imaginary lien. It was a parade of pain, years of tyranny spilling into the open. The twist came when Deputy Alvarez, one of my own men, requested to testify. At first, I hesitated, fearing conflict of interest, but the judge allowed it. Alvarez revealed that Karen had been calling Dispatch weekly, filing frivolous complaints about neighbors, most of which were racially motivated. "We knew something was wrong," he said, voice heavy. "But without evidence, we couldn't stop her. This time she went too far, and thank God she did, because now the whole world sees it." Karen erupted, shouting, "You're all liars. I kept this neighborhood safe. Without me, this place will collapse into chaos." The judge slammed his gavel, his patience worn thin. "Mrs. Trask, one more outburst and I'll hold you in contempt." For once, she bit her tongue. When the verdict came, it was swift. Guilty on all counts. Filing a false emergency report, harassment of a minor, abuse of authority. The judge's words echoed like church bells. "You placed a child in mortal danger with your lies. You exploited the trust of your community. And you attempted to weaponize law enforcement for your own ego. This court will not tolerate it." Her sentence was severe. Restitution to every family she defrauded, permanent ban from any HOA leadership, hundreds of hours of community service under county supervision, and probation that ensured her every move would be watched. To a woman who thrived on control, it was a cage more humiliating than prison. The day she was escorted out of the courthouse, neighbors gathered outside with signs. Some read "Justice for Emily." Others said, "No more Karen." She kept her head down, but cameras caught the fury simmering in her eyes. She wasn't just defeated, she was exposed, stripped of the fear she once wielded like a sword. But the true victory wasn't her downfall, it was what rose in its place. A month later, we held a town meeting by the lake. No HOA banners, no clipboards, no Karen. Just families spread across picnic tables, children splashing freely, music in the air. For the first time, the lake felt alive with joy instead of tension. I stood before them, my badge at my side, and spoke from the heart. Karen thought she owned this lake. She thought she owned all of you. But ownership isn't about paper or power, it's about stewardship, about community. This lake is mine by deed, yes, but it's ours by spirit. No one will ever take that from us again. Applause roared, not polite but thunderous. Neighbors clapping, whistling, even wiping tears. Mrs. Delgado, who had lived in fear for years, hugged Emily and whispered, "You gave us courage, little one. You were braver than all of us." My daughter smiled shyly, her eyes glistening. The twist that night came in the form of legislation. A state senator who had followed the case introduced a bill named Emily's Law, criminalizing the misuse of 911 for HOA enforcement and granting homeowners stronger protection against harassment. When it passed months later, Emily stood with me at the signing ceremony, her small hand holding mine as flashbulbs lit the room. Karen's house eventually went up for sale. She vanished from the community, whispers placing her in a small apartment across town. Stripped of her influence, her empire dissolved. Some pitied her. Most did not. For us, her name became less a person and more a warning, a reminder of what happens when arrogance goes unchecked. On quiet evenings, Emily and I still sit by the dock. The lake glitters in the moonlight, peaceful, eternal. She leans into me and asks, "Daddy, do you think Karen will ever come back?" I shake my head and smile. She can't hurt us anymore. And even if she tried, the truth is stronger than her lies. Because that's what this was really about. Not a lake, not even a child's safety, but truth versus tyranny. Karen thought she could rewrite reality with threats and phone calls. But truth has a way of breaking through, especially when a community stands together. So I'll leave you with this. Was Karen's punishment enough for the years of fear she caused? Or should people like her face harsher justice when they weaponize authority against children? Share your thoughts, because silence is the soil where bullies grow, and only your voice can tear out the roots.